All right, I'm going to keep this relatively short. I know Pawpaw would have wanted his eulogy to be a long, detailed biography of his life, but if Nanny's was that long, she'd be in the back saying, "He just went on, didn't he?" Nanny was born in 1926, living through the end of the Roaring Twenties, the Great Depression, World War II, the Korean War, Vietnam, and this was all before she was 50. The iPhone came out in 2007. Nanny was 81. She lived a very, very long and fulfilling life. You know, you hear stories about people losing their loved ones only for them to pass on shortly after from a broken heart. Nanny ran the streets for another 15 years and enjoyed every minute of it. All jokes aside, Nanny loved Pawpaw. They were married for 56 years. They spent more time together than a lot of people spend on this earth. She would always talk about the trips they would take. See, it would always take them forever to get where they were going because he had to stop at every Civil War site or state park he could find. Also, Cracker Barrel, the finest of chain breakfast places in all the country. Remember when Pawpaw stole the little bottle of syrup only for it to explode in his pocket miles down the road? Nanny grew up dirt poor. She even had to stop going to school because she didn't have a pair of shoes. I didn't know that about Nanny until recently, because she never complained about it. Nanny never really complained about anything, unless the Cardinals game was on. And even then, that was just her coaching style. Nanny didn't always mean to tell you exactly what she was thinking, but if you spent even just a few minutes around her, you were bound to find out. I remember going to her house when I was about 12 and her greeting me under her breath, "Wow, he's becoming a chubber." She had a very loud internal dialogue. Nanny was a proud mother of 9 children. My mom told me she would always joke about an old TV show called 8 is Enough, even though she knew that wasn't. Nanny loved her people. She was so proud to be the matriarch of the family that she built. She has 25 grandchildren, 32 great-grandchildren, and 1 great-great-grandchild. Nanny's legacy will live on through generations to come, not only through our DNA, but through how we all go about life. Every memory we have from her will fuel us to become better versions of ourselves. Every recipe we cook, every story we tell, every saying that we say, she will be living on through us all. That's what Nanny cared about, leaving a positive imprint on this world. She demonstrated her faith through actions. She didn't preach, she just believed. Whenever you're going through something difficult or painful, remember Nanny's words, offer it up. Nanny sure loved to have fun. She loved the casino. Do you know you're not supposed to ask somebody how much money they lost on the boat? That's rude. She showed me all her little tricks when we went together. There was no such thing as a gambler's fallacy to Nanny. She knew exactly what numbers to play on her peanut machine. We joked when she had her big fall at River City, she should have sued. She could have covered all her losses before she went up to Pawpaw. I love Nanny's cooking. I think Rose may have coined the term nanny burgers. She'd fry the burgers in the pan, then cook the buns in the grease. There was nothing like nanny burgers. I think the secret ingredient is the buns had to touch the raw meat at some point during the cooking process. I don't think Nanny ever kept up on food safety regulations. Me and Rose would joke, we'd say we're just not going to watch her make them. One time, Rose asked me to make them. She said they were pretty close to nanny burgers. I guess that means I hold some pretty valuable knowledge. This last year, I'd come by and visit her at my mom's house. I remember I was in the kitchen cooking. I could hear her talking to herself in the other room. She had the Cardinals on, was going on and on about how terrible they were. I went in, talked to her for a bit. She said, "Hey, have you seen the Cubs? They were off to a pretty good start to the season, and the Cardinals were not playing up to their potential." "Yeah, I've seen them, Nanny. thinking nothing of it. Next week, went over there again. Hear a familiar complaining coming from the living room. She's watching the Cardinals blow yet another big lead. She says to me, "Wow, these Cardinals always find a way to lose. Those Cubs keep winning, though. They're pretty fun to watch." I finally said, "Nanny, are you becoming a Cubs fan at 94 years old?" Then the Cardinals eventually put on that 17-game winning streak, break the franchise record for Nanny. They couldn't lose their best fan. Nanny almost gave up on the Cardinals. She would never give up on her faith or her family. Nanny finally achieved her lifelong goal of making some believers out of us. I wonder if she stopped by purgatory for one shot of honey. We'll never stop keeping the faith, Nanny. We love you.
All right, we have a duo now. We have Joe and Jeff. Give him a hand, give him a hand.
Oh, that's a hard act to follow, right? You did a great job. All right. All right. We're gonna start off with a letter that Pat Hogan wrote to my dad when he was on his way out. Patrick Hogan, one of our best friends, brother. I mean, so you know, Tim had a lot of jokes in there, and we're gonna turn it the other way here, I guess. Right, now if I can't get through it, Jeff's going to help me here, so.
I can't get through it.
All right. You are third in line, man. All right. Dear Joe, I thought it'd be easier to write how I feel about you as I struggle to find the right words to say. First and foremost, I want to say thank you. Thank you for always being there for my mom and dad after my dad's aneurysm. Thank you for taking care of me that night and so many other days since. I know I probably caused you a lot of unnecessary headaches, but I will be forever appreciative of how you took me under your wing, showed me so much, and teaching me so much along the way. I always thought of you as my second dad. I'm so lucky to have had the privilege to call you that. The lessons you have taught me will stay with me forever. Whether it was how to build or fix something, you always took the time to explain the best methods for the task at hand. You have also been someone I consider a role model, not just because of your work ethic, but because of how you went about being a husband, a father, and I'm so lucky to have had you to be such an important part of my life. I love you and will miss you so damn much. Love, Patrick. Just want to thank you all for being here today. Just looking around the room, I can tell how much my dad was loved and will be missed. It's hard to narrow down my dad down to a few words and his major accomplishments, but in searching for the right stories and good memories, so many had a lot to say. My dad was second born in the family of 9. They all grew up with Nanny and Pawpaw in a 3-bedroom house in South City. Their earliest memories came from his siblings. You could tell what type of man he would grow up to be just based on how he was: child strong, willful, determined, and a caretaker. He showed his willful spirit when he helped his brothers control the furnace so his sisters could not make it hot. He showed his strength by impressing everyone at the age of 7, swimming across the bay down at the Ozarks. And he showed how determined he was when his teacher told my Aunt Teresa that he wasn't a good student. So with the help of Nanny and phonics books, he learned how to read and never set a book down again. As he got older, the type of man he was led him to my mom. They were both great friends with Mike Conklin, who, by the way, is awesome. I don't think he's here, but I love Mike. And he knew them well enough to introduce them to each other, and they were inseparable ever since. He was sweet and loving to Mama D. He was grateful for everything, every little thing she did for him. And if you asked the right people, they would tell you that he let her get away with any crazy idea or plan she had. He loved her with no expectations and held an example for how his husband should treat his wife. Truly a match made in heaven, where their devotion to each other lasted 45 years. Together, they had me, Kelly, Tracy, and my brother Jeff here. And he truly was a great role model for not only us growing up, but for those who were lucky enough to be around to share his wisdom. There was not one sporting event he ever missed as long as he was home. He was there not only to drive us to our games, but to cheer us from the sidelines. And this was something he continued for his grandchildren. He taught me and Jeffrey everything he knew how to build, repair, and to make anything. We just tinkered with it long enough. Okay. He made sure to hold us to a high standard in everything he did. And we all have a story of if our room wasn't up to standard of cleaning after getting multiple chances, we would walk into a freshly clean room with things missing. I cannot talk about my dad without mentioning how hard he worked. Not only was he the hardest working man I've ever met, he never let how long he worked every day get in the way of his family, neighbors, friends, or whoever when they called him. He never once complained about work that had to be done. In fact, he worked so hard sometimes it seemed like another hobby. Like reading or watching football. He had such a stoic nature and calm presence that he presented, but he was one of the most heartfelt, compassionate people. He was funny, sometimes in an obvious way, sometimes in a quiet little comment he thought no one heard. When reflecting on his life and the relationships with him, and he had some stories he wanted to share, but instead he laughed and kept to themselves because no one didn't want to give so much. Stop crying, you're looking right at me. When reflecting on his life and their relationship with some had stories they wanted to share, but instead laughed and kept to themselves because they didn't want to give too much about the other side of his humor. He would just laugh as kids, sometimes intentionally, by loudly singing on the way to practice. Sometimes it was on accident, like when he fell asleep calling bingo and snored right in the microphone. Some call it a snore, I call it a burp. He was honest and kind and the best pawpaw to all his grandchildren, each with their own special experience with him and let's not forget he had the best mustache and eyebrows ever. All of these memories are just a few things that made him so special. Before we toast, I want to ask everybody to be a little bit like my dad. Make someone laugh. Help out a friend and be good to your family. I know he's looking down on us and I'm wondering who the heck paid for this to be here. We're really grateful though to have him share it with Nanny, you know. So yeah, 2-for-1 special, right? So everybody raise your glass here. Oh, that's fine. Kelly. Just a little toast we got. There's another one after this. Those we love don't go away. They walk beside us every day. Unseen, unheard, but always near. Still love, still miss, and very dear. For Joe and Nanny. Shall we have another drink?
We'd be fools not to.
Cheers. I love you, Dad.
Love you, Dad.
Thank you, guys.
Now we have Colleen. Colleen, where are you?
Good job, Joe.
Hello. Well, I want to start by saying that Joey's a jerk. I was not planning on standing up here and crying in front of people, but now I'm afraid I might. Ugh. Thanks, Joe. No, I had a couple funny stories I wanted to just tell real quick. But first I want to call out how he acted like 3 people volunteered. 3 people, Joe, Jeff, and Tim, were planning on speaking. So 1 person volunteered today. I just want to clarify. No one volunteered today. So growing up, we used to go to the Muni every summer. And it was great, and we'd have a whole family dinner beforehand. And I was 18 in college, and I got to bring my college boyfriend, and it was so weird because he was meeting my whole family, but whatever. But then Nanny said, "Hey, would you like a beer?" And he looked at me like, "Oh my God, I'm only 18. Does she not know? What am I gonna do?" And then she goes, "Oh my God, I'm so sorry. You're driving." And he was like, that is all she cared about? Nanny, we all love her. We're going to miss her. I have no idea how she was a mom for 9 kids because I have 4. Yes, I know in this day and age that's crazy. And you'll probably see them running around, and my sisters or nieces or strangers picking them up and taking care of them because I'm doing something else. But, right? It takes a village. So I have no idea how she did it for 9 with such grace and made it seem so easy and was such a nice human. Because this morning, when we were not ready to go, I was like, "Get your butts in the car!" And they were like, And then with Uncle Joe, what I remember growing up, he didn't talk much. I remember taking his beers and hiding them. And then I remember being a little older and taking his beers and drinking them. And hanging out in that back basement room. and emptying the fridge. But Joe was a good man, and you can't think about Joe without thinking about Dee. And isn't it just crazy, Mary and Joe, and they were both just perfect together. And we're gonna miss them a lot.
Yeah.
So, cheers.
Cheers. Cheers.
All right. Okay, now for all of you that sat on your hands or shut your mouth or didn't want to talk, this is your last opportunity. So if anybody wants to say anything, come on home. I got somebody.
I'm Nancy. I am the 8th of 9. I was the first baby and then came out. She was the second baby. Anyway, some people know this about me and some people don't, but I like microphones. Anyway, I ordered some pictures for the 82 souls that she left behind, and I made a mistake because I'm not very good at math. That would be my son Michael. And he has a website, Oilers Academy, that he has all his math videos on. If anybody wants to learn about math, maybe I should look at some of them, I don't know. Anyway, I ordered these pictures, and so I have a lot extra because I ordered 82, but there's 4 on each one. I didn't know I was doing that. So I got a lot extra, so please help yourself. It's my mother and Joseph. And then it's the other angel, my husband Michael. And you could just cut me out because I'm not really an angel yet. So yeah, we're gonna miss them both. And my mother suffered a lot over the last year. She never complained, not once. She just didn't have it in her to complain. She just offered it up, and she loved God and she loved the Blessed Mother so much. And she wanted just to pass that on to her family and her friends.